Hello, hi, hey there, it's Gallade74. It's been a really long time since I've said that, and it's been a really long time since I've recorded anything for YouTube. So, not really in the groove, but I'm also not burnt out anymore. That's also really sick. But hey, I'm Gallade, as I mentioned, and today's video is going to be about the UPA draft analysis. I could sit here and update you guys all day about why I haven't uploaded, but I have a Twitter that kind of explains that to an extent. So that's in the description below. I have a Discord in the description below as well if you want to join that. It's my personal one. And B, that's not what this video is about. It's a draft analysis. This is my first Wi-Fi league of Generation 8, so that is really hype. This league has a lot of hype because it is the inaugural season of this league. There's a lot of different things going into it. The nerves are pretty much building. There's a new timer, which I'm really scared of for this draft. It's a way different format of how you set up battles as opposed to Gen 7, because I have done Gen 7 Wi-Fi before. And finally, there's an extra touch that we are allowing a Gigantamax Pokemon, which is the new mechanic of Generation 8 in this league. So that's going to be very interesting on how we battle with these types of Pokemon here. There are 18 people in this draft, so a little bit more than I'm used to of 16. There are some familiar faces, and there are some new faces. One thing that I find pretty ironic is that a lot of these new faces come from the IBA, but it's not from the IBA that I was a part of the Wi-Fi League in Generation 7. It's a different IBA. There's so many damn acronyms in this community that they start to be reused at some point, right? But this is going to be a little bit of a longer draft. I do have a pretty solid team to show you guys, and hey, what do you know? Look on screen. You got first overall in the draft. I had a little bit over a week to think about what I wanted for my first pick, and I was pretty set in on what I wanted. And I just want to let you guys know, a little bit of a spoiler, I do really like this team a lot, and I'm going to be pretty excited to show you guys, and I don't really have too much else to say, so I guess we can just start talking about my team. And I almost forgot to mention that every coach's links will be in the description below if you want to go check out a So Desired coach. One that I recommend is JB Westside, because JB has been extremely helpful in making the content stuff for this video. He provided the artwork for me as well as like everything else, so big shouts to him. He's also co-commissioner, I believe, of the league, so you know, he's an awesome dude. But anyway, we did have first overall pick in the entire league, and I did want to pick up sort of like a comfort pick, but something that was new to me, and that's exactly what we did. There is Gigantamax, as I mentioned, and my first pick is Charizard Gigantamax form, or GMAX. We have Charizard GMAX, and I've heard this is one of the more busted GMAXs, and I could see why. This thing has two of the most insane GMAX moves, or just max moves in the game. GMAX Wildfire and Max Airstream particularly. Wildfire takes 1/8, I think, of your opponent's health after each turn. It's like Fire Spin almost. And then Max Airstream boosts your speed, which is definitely the most broken max move of all the regular ones in my opinion. It's a fire type, and I like to build around fire types. I have made Charizard teams in the past, and I've been really comfortable with all of them. It's a good speed tier at 100, nice, pretty good speed. It's a good offensive mon, and finally, it beats a lot of other Gmaxes, not all of them of course, but a decent amount Charizard can deal with, and that's something I'm really happy with. And another note is that some Gmax leagues like to restrict items on their Gmax. This one we don't, so I am allowed to run heavy duty boots on Charizard, so I don't have to worry about rocks if it has to come down to that. I can get really creative with other items as well that I won't be mentioning, but it was just a nice little touch to adding GMAX Charizard as my first overall pick. And I think I'm going to have a fun time building around it just because, again, I built around Charizard before and I've enjoyed it. So that is my first pick. We have a long time till my next pick, but then we'll have 2 picks in a row. So that's going to be pretty cool, and we're going to go into that. So now that we've gone through basically 2 entire rounds of picks, it is my time to get the wheel. And luckily I did not get sniped at all, which was absolutely amazing. And I wanted to pick up something next that dealt with Ghost and Electric, and I'll explain why after I tell you guys that it was KROOKODILE. KROOKODILE was my second pick, and I wanted to pick that up because Electric and Rock, I want to add Rock type to that too, because it deals with the Electric and Rock types that Charizard sort of struggles with. And I said Ghosts and Electric because it's part Dark type, and there are some insane Ghost types at the moment, like they're kind of running house, like Dragapult and particularly Spectrier. I was really scared of that thing. And if you don't have a good Dark or Normal type on your team, that thing kind of just beats you. So at least I have a Dark type to kind of deal with that. Electric types got really screwed over this generation with the loss of hidden power, so KROOKODILE can beat most of them and not worry about like hidden power ice or any type of coverage move whatsoever. That was pretty cool. Regieleki was one I was looking at. I was a little bit scared of, but KROOKODILE was just sitting there, just all fine there. Decent speed tier at 92, not bad. Decent speed, above 90. Knockoff spam is really nice to have really early, so I can knock off opponent's items and set up for a late game. Gives me a rocks option. And this thing can go offensive or defensive. I do see myself using it more offensively, but not to say it can't be defensive with like Intimidate, Rocks, Taunt. It's got some good utility, and that's something I'm all excited to see about. This isn't my first time using KROOKODILE because I did use it in PEPA Season 2, but that was when I was fairly new to draft and didn't quite know what I was doing, so this is going to be my like real first experience with Krook in draft. So again, excited to use it. We have our very next pick next to us because we are on the wheel, and I did decide to pick up FERROTHORN as my next pick. The type synergy is absolutely amazing between these three. It does stop the water types, as both of them are weak to so far, so that's going to be pretty awesome. It has more hazards as an option, so KROOKODILE is not locked into running rocks almost every week. FERROTHORN also has spikes to add on to it. It is a strong steel type. One thing I do kind of hold true to is that I like to draft strong steels as opposed to strong fairies, just because of how the teams I build, and this is just another example of it. FERROTHORN is one of the best steel types in the game. Not saying best, but one of the best. And it has a gives my team a very solid defensive option, as so far I didn't really have that, and I do like to bake my balanced teams, so there's the addition to that. And spoiler, this is going to be pretty much a balanced team here. And I did explain it at the very beginning of the gem, like in PCP and the other PTL when we were uploading that body press is a new move on defensive Pokemon that they can run. FERROTHORN is an example of that, and it gives it more of a offensive option, quote, quote. Gives it some type of power behind its moves if it's not hitting too hard with anything else. So FERROTHORN is going to be a very good addition to this team. It is kind of a boring Pokemon, but if it fits the team, it's going to fit well. Now we have a long time till our next two picks, but we're going to go talk about them. And to anyone who has watched this channel, you know this next Pokemon is something that I'm also really, really comfortable with. This Pokemon is Rotom Wash. We are picking up a Rotom form yet again, and yet again, it is Rotom Wash. It's a water electric type, so a very good typing because it has Levitate. It's only weak to grass type, which Charizard destroys offensively, and FERROTHORN can deal with defensively. So right there, the type synergy is absolutely amazing. I finally have a Volt Switch and a Defog user, so that was something I really needed on both fronts, and that's the main reason I wanted to pick up Rotom on this slot here. Rotom has a lot of insane utility options like WOOAAHH, Toxic, Thunder Wave, Pain Split. I said Defog already, but Defog. It gets Nasty Plot now to set up on the offensive side, so that's pretty useful. And I could keep naming things, but those are the ones that come up in my mind at the top of my head here. And again, I've used Rotom Wash in the past, and I'm really comfortable with this Pokemon, especially paired with Charizard, because I have paired these two before, and they work really well. And this is my last returning Mon on this team. So far, I have used every Pokemon on this team one way or another, but now, from here on out, I think every other Pokemon I've had is brand new to me, except for maybe one Pokemon I used in the tournament. So, we're going to start diving into new faces now after we've seen all these old familiar faces. And I'm excited to see it, because so far we have an insane draft of these 4 Pokemon here. But that is Rotom Wash, and our next pick, again, we're on the wheel here. It is going to be Dragalge, again, a new Pokemon. It is a grounded poison, something that I wanted. And speaking of grounded poison, because it does absorb Toxic Spikes, it's a Toxic Spikes user itself, so that's really cool to see. I wasn't really weak to any types that Dragalge was weak to so far, so it doesn't really add any weaknesses to my team. It's a great wall breaker because of its adaptability, and it also has a good defensive option just because of its bulk is pretty good. It's a pretty good Assault Vest user as well as just other items in general, and it can run like a Toxic Set and stuff like that. And so it has definitely both offensive options and defensive options like a few of my other Pokemon on this team, and that's what I really like about my team so far, is I can go offensive or defensive with a bunch of Pokemon. And finally, Dragalge got a new move called Flip Turn. It gives me more momentum option outside of just Rotom, so that's going to be a pretty nice addition to this move kit here. And that's all I really have to say about Dragalge. It is a little bit slow, but that is something that I definitely don't mind on this team so far. But yeah, that is Dragalge. That was on the wheel pick. We have 5 picks so far. It's been an amazing draft. I have yet to get sniped, which is really sick. And then we can go into our 6th and 7th pick now. And as I say that I don't get sniped, this next following back time around was one of the worst rounds, pairing rounds I've ever had to go up against, just because of how many times I did get sniped in these rounds. I can go over it for you real quick. Ninetales Alolan, that was kind of a whatever. It would have been nice if it came back around, but it wasn't really a big deal. Rabombi got taken in the same round. That I did really want because I felt like it could fit the team really nicely while giving me a fairy type. That really sucked, but I did have a nice replacement for it, as I'll get into a second. Buzzwole got taken. That was like the biggest one because that really fit my team insanely well. It gave me a really good Edgequake switch in to the point, as I don't really have one right now, and that would have been absolutely amazing. And then Surfetched as a backup fighting type I also didn't get. So it was a really bad round, but I did get some speed still, despite Rabombi and Ninetales getting taken. I picked up FROSLASS. FROSLASS still fits this team really nicely. It's a tier 3 Pokemon, and I think it's a pretty underrated threat. It does give me the speed, as I mentioned, that I really need. Ice and Ghost is really good. If you guys have ever watched enough of my channel, then you know that I like to have a nice, cleaner Ice type. Vanillix in the PTL, Kyurem and PEBA are just two examples I can think of. And then Ghost is pretty good at the moment, just having that spammable types is really nice. FROSLASS gives me a bunch of utility moves. It gets a lot of them, as well as spikes, so more hazard options. Not really a defensive Pokemon, but you know, at least the defensive utility is nice to have on it. Ice Shard and Priority, it can go both ways, physical and special. Prior to this generation, it was mainly just a special attacker, but now because it gets Triple Axle and Poltergeist, it can go physical. It has the same base stat at 80, so that's why it can go both ways. And yeah, I think FROSLASS was still a really good addition to this team, despite it not being my first pick, and I think it's going to fit well. I do have my next pick, and I wasn't sure where to go for my next pick because that Snipe on Buzzwole really sucked. I don't really know what I need now. I do know that I need a fighting switch in though, and I could have picked up Articuno Galore, but I picked up SIGILYPH, and here's why. SIGILYPH is in tier 4, while Articuno Galore is in tier 3. Could have done it for the clickbait, but we're here. SIGILYPH gives me a good fighting switch in. It's got okay bulk, not as good as Articuno, but the big thing that I wanted was defog, and SIGILYPH's abilities are really good. I don't mind dual flying type because of SIGILYPH's Magic Guard ability. It's not weak to rocks, and Tinted Lens is pretty good as well, so it definitely has a few options there. SIGILYPH gets defog, Articuno does not, and I really needed another defogger, so Rotom wouldn't be forced into that role every single week. And here it is right here. And then finally, SIGILYPH just gets some good coverage moves, and I think that might help in some weeks if it's got a good enough matchup. And that's basically all I really picked it up for. Again, not the biggest fan of this pick as compared to everything else on my team so far, but I still think it can have its role in this team, and we'll see where it goes when the season starts to get going. But we are 7 picks in, we officially have a full team and an extra mon to spare, and we have to go back around again, and we'll be back for our next pick. This time around on the wheel pick, it wasn't nearly as bad as the previous round, but we did still get sniped of Aromatisse, and I'll explain why that's important a little bit later, but first, we picked up Comfey. Comfey they're both fairy types, so I got my fairy type slot checked off. Comfey gives me an insane amount of utility, like so much. It basically fills every checkbox that I needed to remaining in team building for this team. And the most important thing that I wanted to pick it up for, besides the fairy typing, it was priority. I want a really good priority user on this team, as I do on most teams, and I do have Ice Shard on FROSLASS, but Comfey just merely existing is a good form of priority because of triage. It's a really good ability. I do know Comfey gets really walled by Steel, Poison, and Fire types, which is not really awesome, but if you do get those out of the way, Comfey can be a threat. The only reason that snipe was kind of big was because it kind of hurt my budget. Aromatisse was tier 4, while Comfey was tier 3. And even though they fit the team pretty equally, I can almost argue Comfey's better for my team. If I picked up Aromatisse, I was able to pick up a tier 2, but because I picked up Comfey, I can't do that, which is a little bit unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world. But again, Comfey, really good if you can support it, and I think it's going to have a nice role on this team. And for our second pick on this wheel here, I picked up Cinccino. Cinccino doesn't have a crazy role on this team. It gives me a higher speed tier above FROSLASS. I didn't want 110 being my fastest speed, so at least I have 115 now. That's a little bit faster. It gives me some momentum in U-turn, which is cool. Skill Link is a really good ability, as well as Technician, because Technician can be used with Triple Axle. And if there's an Ice Weak team and FROSLASS for whatever reason doesn't have a good matchup, then Triple Axle is going to be really nice. and skill link for stuff like Tail Slap, Rock Blast, Bullet Seed. Good coverage moves on this Pokemon. I don't see it coming every week. I don't really see it coming too often, but it still has important. The speed tier is really nice to have, and just having my opponent needing to prep for it is going to be really nice. And who knows, it might have a matchup one week where it's going to want to come. So we'll see about all that. And then finally, we are down to 2 Pokemon remaining. We're almost done. Next up was Stonjourner. This is my only tier 5 pick on this team. It is a new Gen 8 Mon, so I'm excited to be able to use it. Not the most impressive Mon in the entire world. However, this was originally going to be a throwaway pick because it's my tier 5. I like to kind of mess around with it. But I saw Stonjourner in tier 5, and I don't have a rock type yet. 70 base speed is pretty good. It gives me another rock option. I was like, you know what, why not? Let's throw it on the team and see what it can do. It was one of the best tier 5s there, in my opinion. I don't think it was the best. I think Aldino was still there. It wasn't still there, it was there. And Aldino was insane for tier 5, and a few other Pokemon down there as well. But I thought it was nice for the team. Again, just like Cinccino, I don't see this coming every week, but if it has a nice niche matchup, I could see myself slapping it on there. That's Stonjourner, and now we have our final pick in the entire draft. And I picked up THROH. I desperately needed a fighting type. A lot of things I couldn't beat immediately offensively was because I didn't have a fighting type. And I know THROH is more of a defensive Pokemon. It was either THROH or Sawk. I picked THROH because if you look at my team so far on the side there, I have a lot of offensive options already. I didn't really feel like I had the most defensive options. Yeah, I do, of course, have FERROTHORN. Rotom can be a pivot. Dragalge can go either way, but I didn't have too many just dedicated defensive Pokemon, and THROH is one of those Pokemon, and you don't really think about it at first, but THROH's got 120 HP and 85 on both defenses. That's really good, actually, and for a tier 4, I thought it wasn't bad. It has Taunt and a few other things it can pull out its sleeve, and what do you know, maybe I could go offensive one week. I believe it gets Bulk Up, right? Yeah, it gets Bulk Up, so you never know what I could do with this thing. And that was going to be my 11th pick, and that is going to be my final pick in this draft. So before I wrap up this video, I will go over this team one final time. Your Calgary Flamethrowers for UPA Season 1. Our team consists of GMAX Charizard, FERROTHORN, KROOKODILE, Rotom Wash, Dragalge, FROSLASS, SIGILYPH, Comfey, Cinccino, THROH, and Stonjourner. What do you guys think about this team? I would love to hear from you guys in the comment section below. I'm personally a big fan of it. It's a little top heavy, but not an insane amount, and I think it's going to put in a lot of work this season. And speaking of the comment section below, what did you guys think of this more laid back commentary? I'm more of one of those cracked ass YouTubers who's uploading those DAs and being all loud. I just wanted to kind of chill a bit on my first video back, and I'm going to try and keep it a little bit more chill. I know when I'm in the heat of the moment, these live comm battles that are coming your way, I might be a little more scattered. That's just because of, the nature of it. It's my first time doing Gen 8 Wi-Fi, so I'm definitely going to be all hella type of nervous the first few weeks. Make sure to check out all the coaches in the description below. They're all really awesome people, and everything's been going insanely well in this draft so far. Week 1, we face off against JV, coach of the Atlanta Victinis. So that's going to be a fun matchup, and that's going to go up on Friday, I believe. I'll post on my Twitter when we're posting it, but I'm pretty sure it's next Friday. But that's it for you guys. Thank you guys for watching so much. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you like Pokemon Draft League content, consider subscribing to the channel. I'm going to head out of here. Have a fantastic day, YouTube.